here. Great. And can you just start with your name?
My name is Sam Reiner, R-E-I-N-E-R.
And your date of birth?
1/3/24.
And what branch of the service were you in?
I volunteered for the United States Marine Corps.
Okay. And what was your job? What was your job in the Marines?
They taught me how to kill people.
All right. And what rank did you attain?
I did make PFC, and I was put up for sergeant twice, and twice they took me off the list, I believe for two reasons. First of all, I didn't take any guff from anyone, and then they found out I was Jewish. I took a lot of hate remarks.
Okay. And did you receive any medals or commendations?
I became a sharpshooter, 6 points away from being expert. So, and I was trained with the rifle, with the machine gun, and for the handgun.
Right. And how many years did you serve in total?
2 years, 10.5 months. And the only reason why I got out in 45 is because I had 2 wounds. I was wounded twice.
You received Purple Hearts for those?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we'll talk about your growing up. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Chicago on the west side, Jewish neighborhood. In those years we had neighborhoods, all kinds, whether it's Italian, Catholic, or whatever. Different Polish neighborhoods, and Italian neighborhoods. But I lived with the Jewish people, close to the temple.
And tell me about your family a little bit, your siblings, your parents.
Well, my dad died in 1930. He died of a heart attack in his barber shop, slipped off the chair, and he was pronounced deceased. And that was very sad for me and the family. My mother couldn't speak English, so that's through Mom I learned how to speak Yiddish, Jewish, and that was good. And so I was 7 years old when I lost my dad. It was very sad and bad for the family. We had to go, it was called relief. It's like welfare today, because my brothers, I had 2 older brothers, one was 16 years old and the other one was 19 years old, and he was a barber already. And it was very bad. And now I'm a twin. I lost my twin brother March the 5th, 2016 at the age of 92. I am 93 years old now, and I thank God I'm still alive and the last one of the family. And
How many siblings did you have?
I had 2 sisters. That's my oldest daughter. Then she was 16 years old, and my kid sister, she was 3 years younger, so she was 3 years old. And my twin brother, yeah.
And were you guys all very close growing up?
Yes, we were a close-knit family, and since Dad passed away on close to New Year's Eve, every New Year's the whole family was together.
So the loss of your father brought your family closer together, you'd say?
Yes, sir.
Now, can you talk about your schooling life a bit?
My schooling life is a bad record.
Okay.
Because I didn't follow rules and regulation, talked out of being asked to speak. And I dropped out of high school. I was on the street already when I was 15 and a half, 16 years old.
And what were you doing instead of going to school?
Well, I had to go to continuation school for 1 day a week. And I chose to learn printing, about printing. That interested me very much. And so I learned the California job case, where all the letters were at in the case and mixed around. And you had to learn that. And I was very good at that. And so at 16, I learned that. Then I had all kinds of jobs. I had all kinds of jobs. I worked in a lumber company, grading lumber, driving a forklift, a carrier of bundles of 2x4s. You drive in between them, carry them to the truck to be loaded. And that was a good job. I think I was about 17. I was assistant window designer when I was 18. And then the war started. And it was very bad. Well, the war started in December 7, 1941, but then it got worse. And so, and I wanted to enlist in the Marine Corps then, but my mother wouldn't allow me to go at the age of 17, being too young. She says, you don't know what war is all about, you know.
Now, do you remember how much you got paid for the jobs that you did back then? What your wage was?
Well, in the beginning, when I was very young, 14, 15, so I was selling ice cream, carrying it on my back, and if I made $2.50 a day, that was not good money, very good money. And my first real job, for 14 hours for 40 hours a week, I received 35 cents an hour. That's $14 a week. You had a paycheck for $14. I gave my mother the check. She gave me $1 spending money, and the $13 went to take care of the house.
So did you feel a responsibility to provide for your family?
Right. And my brother, I remember my brother, he was 16. They gave him a job in a warehouse. Gave him a small handgun, and he was a guard, working nights, you know.
At 16?
At 16 years old. He was a dropout also from high school. And so was my older brother. So I had no one actually to push me towards education, you know.
Now, was this about the time of the Great Depression that
Right.
we're in right now?
Right.
Did you guys experience any hardships? Do you recollect anything from those days that?
Well, they used to bring in food in brown paper bags, and beans, all kinds of beans, stuff like that. If my mother had a dollar or two extra, she bought a piece of meat to make the soup better or whatever. And then we had, you were watched by the people from the relief company to see where'd you get that meat, you know. They really it was bad those years. But we all survived and did what we had to do. Hand-me-downs, clothes, you know.
Yeah. Now, you're still living in Chicago at this time?
Yes. Yeah. So when my mother didn't allow me to go into the Marines at 17, but President Roosevelt, that's when he said, you can enlist at the age of 18, you know. So I waited till I was 19, and on January 5th, 1943, I was sworn in.
And going back to December 7th, do you remember that day when Pearl Harbor was attacked and where you were?
Well, I was upset because Japanese came to this country, in Alaska then. They actually landed there.
Yeah.
And they got rid of them, and that's when I enlisted for sure.
Yeah. But do you remember the
About Pearl Harbor,
Yeah.
yes, the ships were,
where you were and how you came to learn of it?
well, the newspapers.
Yeah.
Or the radio, we only had radio.
Yeah. Yeah. After you were sworn in, where did you go for basic
We
training?
took a train and took us to San Diego at Camp Pendleton.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the men in our platoon, his name was Tyrone Power, the actor. And he was a very nice guy and stuff like that, you know. Everybody got along.
Yeah.
And every time he went into the bathroom got loaded. There was no room for no one else because he was an actor.
Okay. He got a little special treatment.
No, not necessarily. After he graduated from boot camp, he was put into the Marine Air Wing.
Mm.
And yeah, I was put into the infantry, learning about my rifles, and machine guns, and down the line.
Do you remember how you felt riding that train to San Diego? What emotions you were feeling?
That's the first time I was on a train.
Uh-huh.
It was a big deal. And everyone got along together, you know. And the chow was the food was great in boot camp, and you know, on the table was a pitcher of milk. That means you can have 2 glasses or 3 glasses if you wanted it. At home, you're lucky to get 1 glass of milk. Everything was expensive, and so I put on 20 pounds in 8 weeks.
At boot camp.
At boot camp, that's how good we ate. We got built up.
Muscle weight though, right?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
I was pretty strong. I had 20 eyes then. Now I have the macular degeneration. I'm going blind, but that's okay. I see you perfectly, being 4 feet away from me. If you were 7 feet away from me, your face would be blurred. I couldn't see you.
And do you remember the training that you had to do in boot camp? Do you remember that experience?
It was very strict, a lot of marching, you know, and you had to stand with your shoulders back and your rifles on your right hand shoulder. And you can't move or nothing. No. Very strict.
Did you enjoy the experience?
Yes, I did, because later on I became a DI.
It's a drill instructor?
Drill instructor.
Okay.
And not only that, well, this is when I'm jumping too far ahead now, since I was in a prison camp also. Now, I was not a prisoner though. I was a guard.
Okay.
And that's another story.
Okay. So, did your time in boot camp lasted? You said 8 weeks.
8 weeks.
Okay.
8 weeks, and I felt so proud marching with all the soldiers, and I wish that some of my family was there. And also my brother, let him rest in peace, and my mother, let her rest in peace. He sold his 1937 Oldsmobile so he could purchase a train ticket for 2 people to come out and see me before I left for overseas. Because they figured if I got killed, that'd be the last time they'd see me. They did come out, which was wonderful.
Wow.
I'll never forget that.
Yeah. So after your graduation or
From boot camp,
in boot camp, what came next?
we got on the ship, and the ship was zigzagging all the way for a whole month.
To evade any
No,
detection?
not yet. We went, where did we go? We went to Melbourne, Australia.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Melbourne, Australia, because this is after the Battle of Guadalcanal. Guadalcanal was the battle started in August 1942, and the United States was not ready for war, and the only weapons they had was they saved the arsenal from World War One. That's the weapons we used: the Springfield '03 5-shot rifle, and all the equipment with it, and they won the battle, and then they were transferred over to go to Melbourne, Australia, for a little vacation in between battles.
Yep.
And so when we landed on Australia, I was very happy to see a nice big city like any other country, and I met Rita over there. How did I meet Rita? I went to the temple, and I was the only soldier in the temple. And the cantor came down from the pulpit, and he asked me to come home with him to give me Friday night dinner. The Jewish people, Friday night is the Sabbath, and they always cook good meals. So I was happy I was asked to go home with him. But actually, he didn't want to feed me. He just wanted me to meet his daughter. And I did meet Rita, and she was happy because she was not allowed to go out with Christian soldiers, only with Jewish ones. So I did take her out 3, 4, 5 times, and that's it.
And she was a local to Australia. She's native to Australia.
No, she came. Her mom and dad and her came from Austria.
Oh, okay.
They ran away from the Germans, the Nazis.
Got it.
And that's why they're still alive.
Got it.
And he was an opera singer, but he became a cantor at the temple.
Got it. Let's just back up just a little bit to before you were shipped out. We had mentioned before that you had a girlfriend at the time.
Yes, I met after graduating from boot camp, they gave us leave, and then I was able. I was given a name from the Pollock family, and I stood with them. My sister-in-law's. That was my sister-in-law who was married. Esther, let her rest in peace. And I was. They invited me to their home, and they treated me very nice. And that's where I met Lil over the fence, the next door neighbor. That was the meeting, first time, and she was 18 years old then, and I was 19. She's a beautiful girl and talented. And I asked her to wait for me. If I come home alive, I will marry you. I told her that before. And I did come home alive. I almost didn't make it because of 2 wounds. And I did marry her, and we're happily married for 61 years. We had 3 children, Roger, Sandy, and Susan.
So you met her just prior to being shipped out.
Overseas, right.
Got it.
Yeah.
And you said while you were on the ship was zigzagging.
Right.
What was the purpose of that?
To get away from subs.
So you wouldn't be detected.
That's right, so we wouldn't be shot out of the water.
Yeah. And were you guys traveling in a fleet, or did you guys
troop transport? Yeah, we had like we had individual beds. They either slept in low, the second or third.
Were there other ships around you though, or you guys?
No.
It was just
No,
the one you guys were on, and that was it.
that was it.
Got it. And how long did that trip take to get to
30 days.
30 days?
I'll never forget that.
What did you do for 30 days?
Well, we're the only ones in the water. It was scary
Yeah.
because, you know, you never, good thing we didn't have the subs come at us or whatever,
Yeah.
because they would blow the ship out of the water.
Was it a pretty uneventful trip?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes it was.
And
But
did,
the food was always good.
yeah. And did you guys know where you were headed, or
No.
they just told you to get
No,
on?
they didn't tell you nothing.
Nothing.
And that's when we were headed to Australia, Northern Australia.
So were you nervous? Were you excited? Did you?
It
didn't know how
it
to-
didn't, more or less, it didn't bother me,
Yeah.
you know. But the First Marine Division, they spent 6 months, they were in Melbourne, Australia for 6 months. And then I arrived, and then we stayed 3 more months, and then we took a ship to New Guinea to get ready for action, you know. And that year we trained, so forth. And let's see, and after 90 days, then we got prepared for the Battle of New Britain, Cape Gloucester. That was the name of the island. The first battle.
Okay.
And that was
Now, before we get into that, when you arrived in Melbourne, did you have any interaction with the Marines that had fought at Guadalcanal and were there? Did you interact with them at all? Or?
no, you used to stay with your own little group all the time, where you lived in tents next to the ocean.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And then after the training in New Guinea, where did you say you were? You were training for.
We're training for the invasion of New Britain, Cape Gloucester.
New Britain, Cape Gloucester.
Right. It's right. It's near the other larger island of New Guinea.
And how did you guys prepare for that?
Well, we got in small boats, and then they brought us to the shore, and we get on the beach. There's no resistance at all, and I almost felt I'm not mad at nobody. I don't want to kill him, but I remember that, one soldier's name was Hopkins. I'll never forget him as long as I live. He was a BAR man, Brownie automatic rifle. And I was carrying his ammunition. I had 12 magazines on my hip. They were heavy.
How many bullets in each one?
There were 20 rounds in each clip. So you run
240.
60 and 60 is 120 rounds.
Yeah.
Besides what he had in his gun.
Oh.
You know, so he seen a little canoe or something, and he seen a Jap hiding behind that boat, but immediately he went up there and just eliminated him, shot him, killed him. You know, we're there to kill people.
Yeah.
And then so we had no resistance, and we're marching all day long, and then we got into muddy water, and it was terrible. And you'd walk up to your chest in the water. You know, it was Christmas time too, but there was a lot of soldiers that didn't come home, and that was their last Christmas. And then we encountered, we got trapped. I remember hearing a lot of shooting in front of me. I was in the last platoon and the last squad, so almost near the end of all the soldiers. And I heard the shots in front of me, but you look up in the trees, and I didn't find any snipers at all. And this is the 13th day that I was in battle. I was 13 days in battle. on a 13 day, and it was my fault that I got shot. I forgot my training because I was excited and everything else. Instead of lying prone position, looking at the trees, I sat there on the ground, my legs were forward, and just sat up and I had my rifle looking for enemies. I didn't see anyone, so what do you shoot at? Nothing, of course. And then all of a sudden, I know he aimed for my head, and the bullet went in my neck, went across my spine, and it came out in my right shoulder. So I asked the doctor, how much skin do I have on my spine? So he says, watch my fingers, Sam. And he says, your thumb is the spine. And he told me I have between 3/16 to 1/4 of an inch. And the bullet passed over without hitting the spine. So it was a sniper rifle. They had two types of rifles, the Japanese. Mm-hmm. They had the 31 caliber and they had the 25 caliber for the sniper rifle. And that's what I was shot with. Immediately I dropped my rifle when it hit my back. I thought it was the end. I didn't know where I was shot at. And that's the scary part. So immediately I yelled out to Johnny, Johnny, where am I hit? Where am I hit? He said, you're hit in the shoulder blade. So I felt better when he told me that. But I was carried away on the stretcher. And I was put in the tall grass, grass and the tall weed was about 6 feet high or so, or more.
So you never knew it was coming. You never saw it.
No, I never thought I would get shot. I don't know. I didn't. You don't think about getting killed.
Yeah.
It never comes to your mind about that. And then all of a sudden, here comes a priest came by me and he says, son, may I bless you? I said, no, I happen to be Jewish. He said, that's okay, God bless you anyway. And then he walked away. And then I seen the halo around his head. No, he was a nice guy, he tried. And I tried to give him my weapon. He says, I have a far more superior weapon than you have. I'll never forget that.
So they, after you were taken out, you were brought to a field hospital, or?
We were flown out. We were flown out to New Guinea at the hospital there. And I was in the hospital for 31 days.
How long was the trip to New Guinea from where you were?
Well,
how long did it take?
It took about an hour or something like that.
Okay, so it wasn't too far.
No, not too far. It took me to the closest one. Because I had patches. Johnny, may he rest in peace. I yelled out, Johnny, I'm hit, Johnny, I'm hit. And he came over and he seen the blood coming out over my neck here. And then he said, wait a minute, you got another hole. And he found the hole in the back. And the doctor called it a flesh wound because the bullet went in and the bullet went out. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure it hit my nerve or something like that. And my arm was completely down. I couldn't raise my hand.
Couldn't move it.
Can't move it.
And were you conscious the whole time?
Yes, I was. I didn't pass out. A lot of people ask me that question. Yeah. But I didn't. I guess I was stronger, or I don't know.
Did you receive any painkillers or?
No, nothing. The two first aid packets that we had on our gun belt, and he took out the bandage and bandaged one. He said, then wait a minute, you got another hole in the back. Mm-hmm. So Johnny Miscavige, that was his name.
No, that's his name.
In Australia, he fell in love with a woman, mm-hmm. Married her, but he got, after I left him, later on in battle, he got killed. It was very sad. We lost out of 45 men in our platoon, only 13 men walked out, and I was one of them. So we're very lucky. Because we're like sitting ducks, don't forget.
Now, can you talk a bit about the 31 days that you spent in the hospital? Were you just recovering, rehabilitating? What were you doing?
Nothing, just paying, whatever orders they gave us, and I abide by it.
Yeah.
You know, took their orders, they fed us good. The nurses took good care of us.
So what did they tell you when it was getting close to the end of your time at the hospital? What was your next orders? Where were you headed?
Well, they gave me the paperwork, and I was told to go back to my company. I was in C-17, Company C, 1st Battalion, 7th Marines. That's the regiment I was in, and I had problems. My right shoulder was still hurting me when I had that rifle there. And so I wanted to go to sick bay, and he wouldn't give me a pass to go to the sick bay. So I went over to the lieutenant's head, and I went to the Army, and I went to their doctor. And then I showed him my wound. He says, "What the hell are you doing here?" He said, "Your family should be back in the States." That's what he told me. So he gave me paperwork to get off the island.
Yeah.
When I went back to my company, my lieutenant seen me come marching into the company. He says, "Where are you going at, Reiner?" I says, "I'm going home." He says, "No, you're not. Let me see the paperwork." And yeah, he took the paperwork and tore it in half. And I couldn't go. So I had to go into the next battle, which was Peleliu Island. Very bad. Because I was more or less a little experienced for battle. So anyway, we went into Peleliu Island. That was terrible. But before we got off the ship, they announced on the loudspeaker that whoever gets wounded twice will get to go home. So that was in the back of my head.
You weren't trying to get
Right.
wounded again, though.
Just listen a little further, I'll tell you. And I had 4 men under me. We picked up wounded soldiers and brought them down to the beachhead for the doctors to take care of them. But we didn't touch the deceased soldiers, only the wounded ones. We helped out a great deal. And then when all of a sudden I see a soldier is getting he's getting a blood plasma for his wound. And I take a look at him. My lieutenant is there. Oh, it was so sad to see him there because he was bareback and he was shot by like in his breast, in the chest. And I asked the doctor. I said, "Doctor, will he make it?" He said, "No, he won't make it." And he dies right in front of me. And I'm the only one that knows him. And he dies right in front of me. And actually I felt very bad. Because he was a hero. He had a carbine rifle and he a foot on the rock and just aiming and just shooting the Japs as many as possible. But he exposed himself to too much. That's a mistake he made. But anyway, we all make mistakes. That's why they have erasers on pencils. And so he had his college ring on his finger, and all the officers they issued watches. So I asked the doctor if I can have his watch and his ring. That was his college ring. only purpose in my mind is to take it and give it back to the proper authorities so his wife could get it back. And so I did, and the doctor took off the shoulder and he gave it to me, and I had another soldier, Italian man, I remember him, I forgot his name, but anyway, he was with me at all time. And he said, Sam, you take the watch, I'll take the ring. Well, I knew it was a 3x6 island, a small island, so he's not going to get off. And he takes orders from me, so I let him hold the ring. Well, that night we couldn't get back to the front lines, and we stood in a large crater hole. I had, by the way, I did have a .38 revolver handgun, only with 6 bullets, so which is not enough bullets, but at least 6 bullets in case I needed it. So, and then all of a sudden I had to relieve one of the men on the machine gun at 2:30 in the morning. How do you tell time at night? It's pitch black. It's pitch black. I've got the answer to that question. In the daytime, we used to catch fireflies and put them in a matchbox. At nighttime, you take out one firefly, hold his wings, and he flares up. Hey, it's 2:30, I gotta relieve that man on the machine gun. And I did. And that's how you tell time at night. So I was with Wally, and they told us there's Japs in front of us and Japs in back of us. I said, Wally, let's sit back to back. The soldier I relieved, he had a .45 automatic. I asked him if I can have his .45 to use it in the morning. I'll give it back to him. So like I said before, there's Japs in front of us and back of us. So immediately I took the .45. I put one in the chamber and I had it half cocked, just one click, and then all of a sudden the leaves start rattling in front of us. It's about 10 to 12 feet away from us. And I said, a Jap, and I fired 2 shots. And I heard something drop heavy, So I knew I hit one. And then Wally, he got his gun also out and ready to shoot, and then we heard noises back there, and then they started speaking in Japanese. So we both fired the same area. I fired 2 shots, he fired 2 shots, and it was quiet. So this is about 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:30 in that neighborhood, and we waited till about 6 o'clock, 6:15, and he tells me, Sam, we better go check on him. You go first. When he said that to me, I almost swallowed my tongue. But I had to do it. I was trained and scared. I had to do what he told me. Otherwise, he would tell everybody I'm yellow. I'm yellow, So we're a little bit on top of a hill, and I'm going around the hill, and I go over where the Japs were, and there I find one Jap. His face is down in the ground, and I look over another 5 feet, 6 feet away in that neighborhood. There was another Jap. He was laying in prone position there, but I was scared of the first one because he always could, if you lift him, maybe he's got a gun, he can get you first. So I shot him in the back of his head and half his face flew off with that .45. I was happy to get rid of him. And then the other chap tried to get up, and that he scared me even 10 times worse. And I just emptied my whole gun into the second one. that's when I got his sword and his handgun. I took those home. I took the sword home, but the handgun, I was talked out of it because they told me if you get caught with that handgun on the ship, they'll take you off the ship. I don't want to go home. The heck with the handgun. They had 8mm handgun, the Jap pistol. And then I started walking back to my machine gun. And on the way back, down below was a hut, a Japanese hut. And he yells out to me. He sees me with the handgun down. He said, "Hey Sam, that Jap is still alive. Give him a shot." Why I listened to him, I still don't know the answer today, but I did listen to him. So I took aim, and I fired at his body, and I see after I shoot him the first time, the body tries to lift up a little bit, so I know I hit him. I gave him the second shot, and the same thing happened. I gave him the third shot, and after the third shot, there was boom. He had a hand grenade in his hand. And when a person dies in battle or dies, period, his hands open up and the little bomb goes off. And that's when I caught 3 pieces of shrapnel in my neck. So it's the second time I'm hitting my neck now. And then that night before, I prayed to God, "Please, God, please give me a small wound so I can go home." And that was my ticket home. So there was a lot of shooting there, and so the lieutenant came up and, "What's all the shooting about? What's all the shooting?" He wanted to know. And well, Reiner got hit, so he came up to me and he had to show him what's what. And he says, "Reiner, check in the sick bay." I says, "No, I think it'll be all right." "Reiner, I'm giving you another order. Check in the sick bay." I said, "No, it'll be all right. You can see it's bandaged." "Reiner, check in the sick bay right now." That was my ticket home.
So how long were you fighting on Peleliu? How long?
That was the 30th day. That was the 30th day in battle. And 31 days it was all over. And a lot of people got killed, you know. A lot of them. I lost my lieutenant. I did lose the platoon sergeant, the 3 buck sergeants, the 3 corporals, and I was the oldest PFC, and I was in charge for the little men that was left for one day. But the next day, new Marines came. We are trained to try and survive at all times, to take over in case, God forbid, they get killed. My colonel was Colonel Chesty Puller. That was his nickname. And the reason they called him Chesty, he was wounded so many times in his chest that he put a plate in there. And anytime he was in battle, he always yelled out, let's get them bastards." And keep going. He was a great general. Every Marine knows that name. I don't care what Marine you stop today on the street. You know if he's a Marine. Ask him if he knows Chesty Puller. And watch his eyes. They'll open up. And then there's another sad story about his son. His son was a lieutenant in Vietnam. And both his legs were blown off. So he went home, naturally, discharged. But you can feel sorry for him, but you can't feel his pain. So he did himself in. That's a story about his son. And then I was transferred when they shipped me home and transferred over to a prison to be a guard there. The prisoner was not too bad of a prisoner. I mean, what I mean by that, they didn't do big crimes. The only thing they did, they missed their ship. They were supposed to relieve sailors overseas, but they missed their ship. Instead of going overseas, they picked up their girlfriends, went to the hotel, and missed the ship. And then they got caught and they got arrested. And they got a year in prison, the sailors. And that's when I drilled the whole platoon, my way. I was so mad at them because you enlisted in the branch of service you want to go in, and you take the oath and then you break the oath. That's wrong, wrong, wrong. So we used to drill we used to have inspections in the barracks, and if their beds was not made right, I'd take out the whole platoon and drill them. And I wouldn't stop until one of them was dropped.
And when you say drill them, what do you mean?
Yeah, it was hot weather, right in the heat.
Well, what activities did you have them doing? Were they exercising, or
No,
what do you mean by drilling?
This is punishing them.
Mm.
And then every Sunday morning, the prisoners had their services. They had a Catholic priest, chaplain. All the Protestant boys, they had their pastor. They had their services. And we had 6 Jewish prisoners there. Nothing for them. That upset me very much. So I had the nerve. I went to the colonel. I said, why, Colonel? Why? He says, Reiner, there's not enough chaplains to go around. That's the answer he gave me. Mm-hmm. So I told him, that was November 1945, I'll never forget that. It was beautiful. I said, can I take them 6 prisoners out of the prison with their navy blues and take them to the service 10 miles away? He says, if I let you do it, Reiner, what would you do if they try to escape? I said, I'll do not too much. I'll shoot them. And I meant it. I meant it, Zach. Because that was my job. But not a one escaped. Not a one. They were very happy that they went to services. And my wife was with me, and that was my honeymoon, because we got married in June 1945. And she played the organ, and I helped the chaplain with the services. We had a good time. And then brought them back to camp, took off their navy blue uniform, and they gave them back their gray uniforms, the prison grays. And no one escaped. And after I was done, then I was discharged. Took the train back to Chicago. I had my sword with me. And then they asked me to take my sword out and hold it. And I was photographed that way, and it was in the Sunday Tribune paper in Chicago. I've got the picture here with me. And it just was good.
Now, when you were overseas, were you able to write back home? Did you keep in contact with anybody?
I wrote my my last letter before I went into combat,
Mhm.
because I thought I wouldn't be coming home. With the experience I went through.
Do you remember what
No.
you said in that letter?
I still have the letter from my brother. There was one soldier there. I got to tell you the story. I got to jump back now.
Yeah.
His name was Bill Wiedenhofer. He was German descent, and him and I didn't get along. Since my last name was Reiner, so he thought I was German. But when he found out I was Jewish, he started making remarks about me. He says, "Reiner, isn't it great? They killed 10,000 they killed 10,000 Jewish people yesterday. Isn't that great?" He was teasing me all the time. And after the second or third time when he repeated it to me again, I said, "Let's go outside." We went outside the tent and I gave him 2 good ones. And he gave me 20 better ones. He did beat me up. But at least he didn't pick on me no more. But anyway, we were in battle. We were walking 5 feet apart in battle in Pelado. And there's another story that's true. All of a sudden we got bombarded, but the airplanes came over and dropping bombs at us. And I hope you never have a bomb go after you or whatever, but it went after us. And the first bomb came, and actually we hugged the ground. The second one came, and when the third one came, before the third one came, I yelled out to Wiedenhofer. I says, "Wiedenhofer, you son of a bitch, how would you like to have 10,000 Jews helping us out now?" And it was quiet. And that bomb came and it was quiet. They picked up his body and took him to the sick bay. And he was in the sick bay. Bill Wiedenhofer was in the sick bay for 10 days. And he dies there. He dies at the age of 18 and a half years old. He was in 3 battles. Guadalcanal, New Britain, Cape Gloucester, and then Pelado Island, he gets killed. I had a camera which was illegal for me to have, but I had a camera, 35 millimeter. I had a lot of pictures of him down the line. I found out his address, that he lived in Pittsburgh. So I wrote a letter to his mother. "Dear Mrs. Wiedenhofer, as you know, I was Bill's best friend." That's what I told her. And blah, 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 blah. I have that letter with me right now, how she answered me. I never answered her. But I have her letter that she sent me thanking me that I was Bill's best friend. And I got that proof right here. I'll show it to you. And I'll let you read it. So I was happy to do that. She lost a son, and I lost an enemy. And that's life.
Now, coming back to when you returned to the U.S., you were reunited with your girlfriend or soon-to-be wife at that time, right?
Right.
At what point were you guys reunited?
Well, I met her parents. And they're a nice citizen, honest people. He happened to be a printer. He had a print shop, the old-fashioned. I don't know if you ever seen a hand-fed printing press. Have you?
I'm not sure.
No. Okay. Well, one time I printed 5,000 envelopes by hand. The machine is going all the time, and if you don't, you got to take your hand out in time, otherwise they smash your hand. So you put one in, and grab another envelope, and take one out, and and it looks like I'm exercising, but actually I was printing. And when I put it on fast, I printed 5,000 envelopes in 2.5 hours. And that's how I made my living.
That's quick.
And then later on I bought 5 new machines, one at a time of course, a linotype machine and a multigraph machine. We didn't have to use type anymore. You photograph it and make a negative, from the negative you make a plate, put the plate on, the machine goes real fast, which is modern. They're still in existence today, including the old line time machine. There's a few shops that have them in the United States, I'm sure. But after 50 years in business, I decided to become a printing broker. But everything I had a lever handle, like what do you call it? Gelatin?
Guillotine, yeah.
Yeah, that cut paper, 500 sheets of paper at a time I'd cut. Yeah, so I was strong then. Or I'd lift those magazines from the linotype machine. That was heavy, but it worked out great. It worked out great. My father loved me, rest in peace. I was going to the printing school then, and the teacher says there's only out of 11 in the class, only going to be 3 printers will be qualified to become a printer. And I raised my hand. I said, "You're looking at one of them." I was very confident.
That's great. So how soon after you returned home did you get married? When was the wedding?
Well, we got to Chicago, stuff like that. Oh yes, and let me tell you another little story about one of my prisoners. He was discharged. He did his time in prison, and he got discharged. He went home to his business. He was in the heating and air conditioning business. So I knew he had relationships with different businesses. So I sent him a letter. I said, "Lou, I'm looking for a car. If you can help me get a car," because those years you had to pay money under the table to get a car, between $300 to $500. I says, "I'm looking for either a Dodge, a Chevy, or
Ford.
Or Ford." So he never answered my letter. He calls me, "Sam, I put $200 down on a brand new car in your name. What'd you get me?" He says, "A Dodge." Okay, so my wife and I took the train to Detroit, Michigan, and picked up the car. That brand new car cost me the 48 four-door sedan, beautiful maroon, $2,003. And I drove that car to California because she was already. I got married while I was in the service.
Oh, you did?
Yes, and we had a twin wedding, by the way.
Your brother got married the same
time. We had a
did?
twin bar mitzvah and a twin wedding.
Oh, great.
And then bar mitzvah, I was 12 years old when I was bar mitzvah. Usually Jewish sons got the bar mitzvah when they're 13 years old to become a man. They gave us a year off because we didn't have no dad. So we were a man a year earlier. And we were wearing knickers. I've got the picture at home.
So at what point did you get married? You said you were in the service when you got married.
Yes, sir.
When was the wedding?
My twin brother came back from overseas. He was in the Army. He was on that famous ship, the Queen Mary ship.
Yeah.
And he served on that. And I understand he did a lot of. I think he was like a what do you call it? He helped deliver babies or whatever.
Yeah.
You know. He did his time, and I did mine. And we got married at the same time. I said, "Herb, you're home. Let's get married together." And he said, "Yeah, okay." And my mother was happy. I made $50 a month as a private. So I helped my mother that way. I donated back $25 to the government, and the government put $25 to that $25, so my mother got $50 a month support, and I lived on $25 a month for 3 years. But I didn't need any more money, because if my socks, if they got holy, you take the old pair of socks with holes in it, turn it into quartermaster, and they give you a new pair. So I didn't need anything. And if I had enough money to buy shaving gear, cigarettes.
So, what year did you come to California? Then you said you drove out here
I came here in between 46 and 48.
and what brought you here?
My wife didn't want to live in Chicago anymore. She was a California girl, and she missed her parents. After all, she was 20 years old when I married her. I met her when she was 18. Beautiful girl, very talented. She played accordion, and before my wife passed away, she was a seamstress, professional knitter, professional crocheter, and professional needlepoint. And then she played the accordion professional. When she got older and was getting too heavy for her shoulders, she put the accordion down, and the next day I bought her an organ. And she became a professional organ player, and I was a singer. My mother took me off the street at the age of 9 years old and put me into the temple choir. I was a soprano then. And I stood in the choir and sang in the choir for 55 years. And my last job singing in the choir was in California, on Beverly Boulevard and Crescent Heights. And I started with $5 to sing for the high holidays, the 3-day holiday. I got $5 for that, and then I worked up the ladder, and my last job, I got $250. I was a tenor then. That's how you work up. I enjoyed it immensely. Because I really, really enjoyed it. I couldn't read music, but I can follow music.
And you had 3 children, you said?
3 children. And the first one is a girl, my daughter Sandy. She's 68 years old today. Thank God she's here. My second baby was Susan, another daughter. I was very friendly with the doctor. And the third pregnancy, I didn't know what it was, but I told the doctor. We belonged to the same temple together, and he was a World War II soldier also, and became a doctor after he left the army. And he was my doctor. But I told him that if you give me another girl, I'm not going to pay you a penny, Paul. But if you give me another son, I'll pay you double. But I never told my wife that I did that. But I told her after I had to take money, I paid him double. You know, when he come out smiling from the from the hospital room, he said, "Sam, it's a boy." I says, "I don't believe you. I want to see the 3-piece set." That's what I told him. He showed me, and that was the proof. I paid him double.
There you go.
May he rest in peace. He was a good doctor.
Yeah.
His wife is still alive. and his son is a doctor today.
Let's see here. So after your, you said you had your printing business for 50 years? About 50 years.
Well, for 50 years, that's when I quit doing my own printing. And then it was time to give up the shop, and I became a broker.
And how long did you do that for?
Well, so altogether, it was 65 years.
Yeah. Excellent.
And thank God, God gave me the health to keep on going. When I was in the printing business, when I first started, I was making good money then, $50 a week.
Well, I'd like to talk about the honor flight experience that you had a little bit, and
Okay.
just kind of tell me about your.
I waited 5 years to be called.
Okay.
I don't know if you want this, you want me to tell the truth about it. When I first got my pension from the VA, they gave me 20%. So I was getting $20 a month. I was very happy. I call that big money then. And so I told the brothers, let's all pitch in $10 apiece and give Mom the $40 a month. A woman always needs more than the man does. I mean, she did the cooking, the cleaning, everything in the house, you know. And that's how she made her money and had the money to run the whole household. And it worked out great. After the first year or the second year, I forgot what it was, they took 10% back. They took 10% away from me. But we kept on supporting Mom. Well, I belonged to the Jewish War Veterans, so I took the case to the Jewish War Veterans and asked them why and this and that and that and this, and I lost the case. They didn't want to give me my 10% back. I tried with the American Legion, it didn't work neither. But I was, in the beginning of the printing business, I couldn't give up the time. I had to work to put food on the table. So I gave it up. When I got married to my second wife, and God bless her, she really helped me a lot. Went back to the VA and we fought them. And now, to make the story short, I am 100% Jewish American veteran. I'm proud of it. I didn't want the Japanese or the Germans to take our country away. Otherwise we'd be speaking Japanese and German. I fought for my freedom first, and then everyone else's. Race, color, or creed makes no difference. And I hope President Trump will do what he said he will do. And he's doing a fine job so far to make people live together and be kind and talk to people down the line. I have 10 grandchildren. I have 10 great-grandchildren. And I have 2 beautiful, I'm a great-great-grandpa. I'm proud of it. 2 beautiful, I'm a great-great-grandpa. I'm proud of it. 2 beautiful, I'm a great-great-grandpa. I'm proud of it. 2 beautiful, I'm a great-great-grandpa. I'm proud of it. 2 beautiful, I'm a great-great-grandpa. I'm proud of it. 2 beautiful, I'm a great-great-grandpa. I'm proud of it. 2 beautiful, I'm a great-great-grandpa. I'm proud of it. 2 beautiful, I'm a great-great-grandpa. I'm proud of it. 2 beautiful, I'm a great-great-grandpa. I'm proud of it. 2 beautiful, I'm a great-great-grandpa. I'm proud of it. 2 beautiful, I'm a great-great-grandpa. I'm proud of it. 2 beautiful, I'm a great-great-grandpa. I'm proud of it. 2 beautiful, I'm a great-great-grandpa. I'm proud of it. 2 beautiful, I'm a great-great-grandpa. I'm proud of it. 2 beautiful, I'm a great-great-grandpa. I'm proud of it. 2 beautiful, I'm a great-great-gr and live to see it.
It's a great thing.
Right. And hopefully I'll live to go to Justin's wedding in August, this coming August. And the whole family be together.
It's beautiful. Now, in conclusion, is there any advice that you'd give for people in my generation or future generations? Any words of wisdom that you'd be able to?
Yes, I got a few words for that. Today, in 2017, there's one word in life for all of them. There's one good word for all of them. And that key word is education. Because after you get the education, you can make your living all over the world, more or less, in my opinion. I didn't have anyone to push me at all. I had to push myself. I was afraid to have a baby. I wouldn't be able to support it. And that's why we waited until I got the confidence I can do it.
Well, unless there's anything else you want to share that we didn't touch on, anything else that did we miss anything that you mentioned or?
Did you miss any stories?
No, yeah.
Donna,
Yes,
any other stories?
just it's nice when you say the Marine Corps taught you to be a leader.
That's right. That's what they taught me, to be a leader.
Did you talk about the battle, that you were the last PFC? The oldest PFC alive? You talked about that? I missed it.
Yeah.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
That was the big. Alright, sounds good. Cool. Come
Thank you very much for sharing that.
Okay. Yeah, you'll like that. That's 1, 2, 3.
Okay, you're good. Okay, tell me when you're gonna start. Oh, Zach, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Go.
Zach, there's another story I have to give you, which is a very memorable story. It just came to my mind. And that's when we were on the top of a hill, a lot of soldiers. I don't know, maybe we had a dozen. And we came to a cave. And then I hear the sergeant yell out, "Hold your fire!" I had a BAR, Browning automatic rifle, 20 shot. And my gun is towards the cave. And here comes a flamethrower walking, and he gets in front of the entrance of the cave, and he shoots a blast of fire in there. Zach, my eyes really opened up. Here comes running out soldiers, running like mad, running out, and John Reap, my corporal, yells out to me, "Sammy, get him!" And they just dropped like flies. We killed them all. Plus we found, we released, there was women in there also. Those we saved, because those were called the comfort girls from Korea. They kidnapped women and sent them into battle with the Japanese soldiers. And they were called comfort girls. They were prisoners. And I believe there still is, I don't know how many alive who went through that. But they asked money from the Japanese government to pay these women that went through which was very sad.
Yeah.
And the Japanese won't pay him any money. Restitution,
Yeah.
that's the word.
Yeah. Wow. And where did that take place on
In
Pele?
Peleliu also. And the next battle after that was Okinawa. First Marine Division had 4 battles altogether. The famous Battle of Guadalcanal, New Britain, Cape Gloucester, Peleliu, and Okinawa. At one time, then I got a notice that if we wanted to go back to Peleliu to visit, and by that time they had hotels on the island. I mean, I couldn't afford no money at all to go because I already had a family to support.
Now, when you were there, there was nothing. There were no buildings or no.
Nothing.
It was
It was
just
just
all-
an island, you know. And when I landed on the Peleliu, I got off the ship, and the ship was rocking and everything. And then you had to jump into the small boat, and if you missed, then you went in between, you'd drown. We had a backpack there with 65 pounds in there to carry, plus your weapon. It was, and by the time when we got to Peleliu, to the island, bodies were floating around in the water.
People that didn't make it.
They didn't make it, no, because as they landed, the machine gunners shot and killed all the soldiers right from the beginning. It was terrible. It was terrible. And then how I got out of there, you couldn't dig in and to make a foxhole because there was coral, and you couldn't dig. And so we just, and that's it. You listened and looked around, and you don't know what to do no more or less.
Chaos, I would imagine.
Yeah, chaos is the word, right?
Yeah.
That's right. It was chaos.
So you guys were under fire while you were trying to get on land.
That's right. That's right. It was bad, very bad. So you learn about war. It's terrible. Nobody wins in a war. Nobody. Nobody wins.
One question you didn't answer for Zach was he asked you tell him about your experience with the honor flight. You went to a different direction.
All right.
Yes, I waited 5 years to be called, and I actually asked the one guy, "You waiting for me to die or what? I want to go." So finally, I was called, and I felt very honored going with the whole group, and I met some wonderful veterans, and we all ate together. Stayed in the hotel together, and in fact, there's one veteran, John, and his father, and he happened to be a Latino, nice people. We got along. Everyone got along. Took my son Roger with us. He was my caretaker. It's the best son in the world. He's the only one. And
What did you think of the memorials?
the first time I was at the White House was in 1945 when I got discharged with my wife, and I was feeding the pigeons on the steps, you know. Really. And I said, someday I hope I'll be back. I didn't get to see anything.
Yeah.
I was discharged already, but I was in uniform.
What did you think of the World War II memorial? Do you remember the fountains and you remember being there?
Yes, yeah, it's all beautiful.
Yeah.
It's all nice.
Yeah.
Each one.
Right.
And if I was younger, I'd go back to
Yeah.
spend more time. And when you see the cemetery just full of crosses, that bothers me too,
Yeah.
because they're all young people. And And like I said before, if it wasn't for the soldiers, we had lost the war, and it would be bad for all of us. We'd be slaves to them. There's another story. I once took 2 prisoners from that prison house and to pick up the laundry for the Marines. And I took my club with me and my 45, and went into the camp. I see one prisoner's walking around. He's got a big P on his jacket, so I knew he was a prisoner. I walked up to him, tapped him on the shoulder, and I offered him a cigarette. I wasn't allowed to do that, but I did it. I wanted to talk to him. He happened to be a German prisoner. So I said to him in German, "Was machen Sie? How are you?" And I speak Yiddish. And Yiddish is a little bit like German, and I do understand some words. And we spoke about close to 10 minutes. And he had a cigarette, smoking at the same time I was smoking. And at the end of the conversation, he asked me, "Was bist du? Who are you?" That's what he said to me. I said, "Ich bin a Yid." I said, "I'm a Jew." When he heard that, he spit on the floor, turned around, he wouldn't talk to me. And I felt like putting a bullet in his head. But if I would have killed him, I would have been in prison for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So I just walked away from him.
Wasn't worth it.
Right.
All right. Let's eat.